Now, estimation uses sample data to calculate a single value or a range of values that serves as an estimate for an unknown population parameter. Now, the point estimate is a single number, while interval estimates, which we commonly refer to as confidence intervals, would be a range of numbers. Now, let us suppose that our population mean, mu, is unknown. Then we will use a sample mean as an estimator for the population mean. Similarly, we can use the sample median, the sample mode, or the sample trimmed mean as estimators of the population mean mu. The sample variance is an estimator for the population variance, and the sample proportion is an estimator of or for the population proportion. Now, let's look on this past paper question. It's from May 2007. The verbal and math scores for a random sample of 200 students sitting the SEA exam in 2006 were collected and analyzed and shown in the Minitab output below. So here you see their scores for verbal and for math. You can see there are 200 students sitting the verbal exam, 200 sitting the math. You can see the mean scores, standard error mean, trimmed mean, etc. Now the question states, assuming normality for both the verbal and the math scores, state clearly the estimators and estimates of the parameters of these distributions. Now the estimators, that would be the sample mean, sample median, and the sample trimmed mean. And the estimates would be the actual values, right? So if I go back to the question, it wanted us to find the verbal and math scores, estimators, and estimates for the parameters. For normal distribution, the parameters would be the mean and the standard deviation. So for both the verbal and math scores, the estimators for the mean would be the sample mean, sample median, and sample trimmed mean. For both of the verbal and the math scores, the estimator for the standard deviation will be the sample standard deviation. Now the estimates for the mean verbal scores, the estimates now would be the actual value. So the mean estimate would be 595.65. The median estimate would be 586, and the mode as an estimate would be 595.57. Rather, not the mode isn't here. The trimmed mean would be 595.57. The estimates for the math mean, similarly, we'll read that from the table. And the estimates for the standard deviation, verbal and math scores are given here, 73.21 and 66.33. So when I ask for estimators, I'm asking, we should think of words. So the estimator for the population mean will be sample mean or sample median or sample mode or sample trimmed mean. And the estimate would be the actual figure. Now, let us suppose that we have a population of 5 students. These students are student A, B, C, D, and E, and their marks for history tests are shown below. So student A got 70, student B got 78, etc. When we find the mean score was 80.6, and the population standard deviation was 8.09. Now, assume that this population value is unknown, and we are going to estimate, and we want to use the sample mean statistic as the estimator. What we're going to do here is to take a sample of size, let's say 3. We're using 3 for this example. So from this population of 5 students, you can get a possible 10 random samples. There are 10 ways in which you can choose these 5 students. And I have a list here of the 10 ways in which you can choose the 5 students and the scores of these 5 students in each of these cases and the sample mean for each of these cases. So if I chose student ABC, the scores would be 70, 78, and 80, and the mean would be 76. So I end up here with 10 sample mean scores, right? Now, if I find the mean of these means, my answer would be 80.6. Now, if you recall, when we had the actual 5 figures, that is all the items in the population mean was 80.6. And now when we take all the possible samples from the population and we find the mean of these sample means, we're getting the same 80.6. So here, the mean of all the possible sample means equals the population mean, right? This implies, therefore, that the expected value of the sample mean equals the population mean, right? And this is a fact where we say that the expected value of the sample mean is equal to mu. Therefore, it makes the sample mean the unbiased estimator for the population mean, right? Because the